This is the Bitcoin Otter Radio Show.
Oh my God, I love you so much!
On 97.7 FM, The City.
Greetings, blessings, and good fortune, everybody. We are back with another show. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, but we have overcome. Yes, we have overcome. Thank you, Lord. We said a few prayers. I have a very
and I came by the house today and I was like, let me go. So here I am.
No, that we're coming at you from KCYP, the city, here in McAllen, Texas. Okay, 97.7 on your FM data. What is the discussion like? So where I want to start is the setup. So what we do is we get into both the Christopher Ott and here we go, the Bitcoin Otter live show. And I'm going in right now and I'm toggling on to the comments. Barry is with us every week, just about, Chris. Barry and a handful of others come on every week. Barry's wife also watches, and we discuss a lot of things, and their commentary is, how would you say, it's instrumental. This is me speaking here, of course, Barry, but this is the way I feel. The comments that you and your wife occasionally post are instrumental to the success of the show. Why do I say that? Because interaction is where it's at. I don't do this for my health. I don't do this because I want to feel good. I do this because I want to interact with other people and get opinions, reactions, and either theories or perhaps avenues of information that I can follow up on or maybe help others do the same. So thank you very much. I see Sue is watching. She says, hi, both Chris's. Yes. So say hi to Dad. I don't know if Tammy's watching as well. Hope everybody's doing well in Florida. So the next step I do is I go on the Bitcoin Otter live feed because there are people who are watching from that as well. And Matt, good to see you, Matt. You're up on the Bitcoin Otter run. Let's see. I think that so far it's just Matt on the Bitcoin Otter feed. But we're going to talk about a few things today. And as I just mentioned a little while ago, Chris has some questions he'd like to ask, and I'm going to start out with that. And then as we get these questions rolling, I will use a real-world example, hopefully, to answer the question. So go ahead, son. What is it that you want to know that we talk about here on the show?
Well, I guess I'd really be I'd like to touch up on the topic of America's past. And since you are somebody of the past, not calling you old, but I would say as time grows, as America gets older, would you say you mourn the idea of America's past ideology now as, you know, you can live through the present?
Yes, I guess mourn might be a good idea, a good phrase. And here's why I say that. I have lived through, technically 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020. So 7 different decades. Of course, I was born in 69, so that doesn't really count. But I can tell the difference in America, in Americans in general, I can tell the difference between what it is that Americans do and say and what it is that people who want to portray Americans do or say. Okay, let me give you an example. Back in the day, I was alive for the original bicentennial. Well, the only bicentennial, meaning 2 centuries of the United States. So in 1976, I remember riding my bike around the neighborhood, and I could sense patriotism everywhere. I mean, people had painted their garages. This is in a suburb of Buffalo, New York. People painted garages. People made it so that the neighborhood looked patriotic. Nowadays, and this is sad, depending on where you're at, right? But nowadays, I think people are less patriotic, probably by the half, meaning half of our population is no longer patriotic. I remember one time in our own neighborhood, and you might remember the neighbor, I'm not going to mention her name, but she was commenting on how divided our country is. And her comment was this. Her comment was, there are people that vote one way and people that vote another. And then there are people who, are Trump supporters. And she pointed at my flag. So what in her mind, and in the minds, I would imagine, of millions of Americans, if you were a Trump supporter, you were a patriot. If you didn't like Trump, you might not even like America. That's what I got from it. Now, there are other potential narratives from that, but that is one thing that I noticed through the time that I've been alive, that patriotism has taken a hit. It really has, unfortunately. And we can see it in our media. The more people that we allow into our country illegally or sometimes legally that don't want to assimilate, meaning they don't want to become Americans. They just want to either use or destroy America. And that's just, see, there are immigration laws on the books, and they've been on the books for a long time. And part of those laws state that you cannot come in and refuse to assimilate. And if you do, you will then be removed. But not many people want to read those laws anymore. What's next, Chris? What else would you like to know?
I'll ask another question right now, but I guess I just want to give some context behind that first question because, I mean, I've always been into like the past of America where, it's 70s, 80s, I guess kind of 90s too. So I've kind of become obsessed with the idea of like watching these films of the past of like how it was for college kids, high school kids. And I guess whenever I went through, for example, high school, I would watch those movies of kids during their high school and try to relate. But I guess the sad part was the relation wasn't there anymore. It was kind of, you could say, dead. So that's where I got the idea of if I could ask somebody who has gone through it, do they mourn the idea of what America used to be? And that's where I got that question from. My next question is, how do you think we can stop this invasion of these Islamic people, especially in Texas now that we're seeing it? Tyler, Texas, we're getting hit pretty heavy. I forgot where it was, if it was Michigan or Minnesota. A bunch of bikers actually showed up because this one guy, I believe his name was Brandon something. He got struck and got rocks thrown at him by these Islamic.
Could have been Brandon Straka.
Yeah, if that's the right guy. If not, then correct me. But yeah, I thought it was crazy because I remember I saw that video first where, these people, I would call them people. You could barely even call them people because they might have flesh and blood like us, but morally, those people are, you could refer to them as aliens, illegal aliens, yes, of course, but like, who would do that to another human if you genuinely had morals attached to your soul, your ideology, whatever? But in the video, you could see people striking him with sticks, throwing rocks at them like if it's the streets of Baghdad. It's crazy. And it's kind of terrifying seeing that in your own country, especially if you're kind of around my age, you know, you're thinking like, I'm bringing my family into this. Like, I don't have family right now, but whenever I get to that point of age where you have a family and you got to worry about like, where do I go to start this life, this family?
Yeah.
Career?
If not Texas, if Texas is not safe from that, what would be, right?
Exactly.
So, you know, what I have to remind myself sometimes, and I'll remind you, is that we are at war. And I don't mean against Islam. This is not a holy war. What I mean is, as Donald Trump says, we are fighting an invisible enemy. This enemy manifests in many different ways. One of the most visible is the international banking cartel. It starts at the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is not federal, and it has no reserves. It is private, and it has been attached to the United States government since 1913.
Like a parasite.
Like a parasite, exactly. So we are now, one of the reasons why I do this show, and we did the whole show last week on it, we are now separating from the Federal Reserve. Now, getting back to the subject you just mentioned. Yes, there are people, there are persuasions that want to take over America. Why? Because we're ripe. We've been softened. We've been divided. We've been demoralized for generations. And it just hasn't stopped. And it's not going to stop tomorrow either. We as patriots, and there was a term, I can't remember which founding father penned it, but it was, I think it was sunshine patriots was the term, where if things got tough, they would give up on the United States, right? Well, we're not that way. We are, especially here in Texas. I would say Florida's pretty similar too. But we have a long way to go. We can't, and this is my opinion, I don't think we ought to demonize a religion, personally. And I would love to say, and I think it is quite true, that most Muslims don't act that way. That is the warring faction of that particular faith, okay? So I wouldn't paint them all with one brush. Now, just to address some comments here, yes, Tammy, my son did call me ancient. I am an old fart, Sue, thank you. Yes, the Lake America, that was awesome. That was awesome. Barry's wife says, he's helping my dad, born 1969, and no, this is not the America I grew up in. Yes. Wow. It is not. It is not the America we grew up in, but I would hope that we can reform it. And here's what I've been talking about, and I don't know if you remember me saying this, Chris, but when I talk to my family and friends, I remind them that the United States does not need a revolution. I am not a revolutionary. What we need is a reformation, because we have a solid foundation. It is a godly foundation. It isn't specifically a Christian foundation, but it is most definitely a godly foundation. We could argue about it, and I will, but the fact of the matter is, we have a moral framework, a solid, legitimate moral framework upon which the precepts of this nation were built. So we don't have to tear things down the way the anarchists want, the way the communists want. There are no such thing as socialists, okay? Because socialists, once they don't get their way, they pick up an AK, and now they're communists. That's my view. We can argue about it, and we can do it politely and nonviolently. But that's my view. Socialism is just communism without the AK, and the AK is right next to them. Might be off camera, but it's there. Sue says, U.S. Department of the Treasury has begun Operation Economic Outcast, an unprecedented whole-of-government economic campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran and its enablers. Yes, Sue, thank you for that. Corinne, how you doing, Corinne? Johnny, Zaya, how you doing? Uncle Chris is on. Hey, we miss you too. So, thank you for mentioning that, Sue. So, Chris, to answer your question, it is not going unchecked, if you will, by the federal government. It's not even going unchecked by the state government. However, there are only certain things that are permissible constitutionally. And we, as patriots, need to remind ourselves that it's not yet time. And some would argue with me, and I'll go there. I'll go to the mat with this one. My opinion is it's not go time yet. That's my opinion. If you think it's go time, you're going to go and you're going to go to jail. So be careful what you do and say as a patriot. That said, I would fight to the death for my country. I've already served, still serve to some degree. Now, what I would like to say is things are being done, not fast enough for many, or perhaps even most on the right side. But the fact of the matter is this. We are going to reform this country. We are going to make it so that people who come in to take it over will feel very uncomfortable, if not downright out. They will be out. Outcast is a good term for that operation. So here's another thing I wanted to talk about, and Chris and I were discussing this as we were driving to the station. What I would like to discuss is this war we're fighting against the invisible enemy, as Donald Trump says. This war is against the governments that are owned by the invisible enemy. Again, we're going back to the Federal Reserve. If anyone tells you that Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, you can call that person a liar all you want, because that's true. It is a lie. The richest person in the world is one of the owners of the Federal Reserve, because you cannot count their wealth. As soon as you try to count it, they will get their lackey, their henchman, to go into a computer and just start hitting print, 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 print. You cannot count their wealth. Now, pretty soon, the U.S. dollar in the form of the Federal Reserve note will be worthless. The U.S. dollar soon, Lord willing, will be denominated as a treasury note, as the Constitution is stipulated. The U.S. Treasury is the only apparatus, the only agency that can legally issue United States currency. Now, on that subject, we'll go back to last week's show, where there will be issuers of U.S. dollars in the form of stable coins on blockchain, various blockchains. However, the Treasury will be in charge of this, and it has been already made a law, or at the very least a statute, that the Federal Reserve shall no longer, or never shall, issue a digital dollar. So we've got that going for us. Now let's see how it rolls out. So Matt says the Rothschilds are evil. You better believe they are. You better believe it. In fact, they are pretty much the fathers, if you want to say that, of the Federal Reserve. It goes back to, I want to say, the 1600s. And they basically took over Europe. And look at Europe now. It's been a long time coming, Europe, but you're going down the crapper. I'm sorry to say that. That's just the way things look right now. Go ahead with another question, Chris. What do you got? What do you think it is that you would like to know about what goes on the Bitcoin Otter show?
Well, I mean, I don't really dabble too much into like the esoteric, secrecy or as deep knowledge that my father knows. I mean, when I want to tap in, I'll ask him. If I see a video or such, I'll ask him his opinion on it every so often. But I guess since I'm, young still, I don't have, like a family like him, like where he's like, okay, I got to make sure like everything in the future goes well for them. I got to, look out for them. I don't really have to think like that yet. But I don't know. I guess my thing right now is like about the past. Like I love to think about sometimes like the amount of fear yet bravery the founding fathers went through, being cramped up in a room and just many intelligent minds together to form such a great country. And my dad's right. We don't need a a revolutionary war. We just need to reform because, I'm pretty sure through all those men's minds, the Holy Spirit was probably, feeding them with thoughts, powerful thoughts, because to make the greatest country in the world, you need divine.
Amen. Assistance.
Yes.
Amen.
And I just like to think about that because who really knows the conversations? Who can really, think of what they were really talking about? The only proof of that night is not only the Constitution, but where we are today. And I guess for in today's type of thing is it's not about America, but like, would you say that now that America is kind of going in its trajectory where okay, even its own people are kind of uncertain, do you think it's an opportunity for outside countries to try to sway the things with us?
Yes and no. Yes, because the countries around the world look at us and desire what we have. No, because I believe that we have an alliance with many of these countries, the big ones, the big boys. And here's where I will divide that up. I'll do it in this form. The enemy that we face is the same enemy that Russia faces. It's the same enemy that China faces. It's the same enemy that Europe faces. It's the same enemy that Australia has been taken over by. It's the same enemy that Canada has been taken over by. It's the same enemy that Iran has been taken over by. And we can name many, many more countries. North Korea, Venezuela, right? Now, the enemy we face is international in scope. It is boundless in evil. It knows no limit and will take no prisoners. So I believe that we are in what is called, and I did not coin this phrase. This is a phrase coined by a young man named Burning Bright. He has a great podcast called The Narrative on Rumble. Check it out if you really want to go deep. But he fashioned out this whole dissertation regarding something that he calls the sovereign alliance. Why sovereign? Because each nation within this alliance is sovereign and separate from all others. Unlike centralized world government like NATO, like the UN, like the European Union. Okay, these are ungodly apparatuses. Why do I say that? Well, if you want to look back into biblical times, the first one world government guy that we hear about, other than Satan himself, is a guy named Nimrod. And he ruled over the world post-diluvian, meaning right after the flood. And he built this tower that he was going to say was going to, help everybody in the world. What he really wanted to do was bring the Nephilim back. He wanted to bring the evil back with this tower. I don't know what it was, technological, sorcery, whatever it was. But he wanted to bring back the old days, man. So, Ale, good to see you. ¿Cómo estás, Ale? Gracias por todo. Saludos a ti y la familia. Gracias. So the aspects or the key aspects that we could take away from what other nations want to do to America is bigger than other nations, meaning the invisible enemy. If you want to call them the Illuminati, you want to call them the deep state, you want to call them the Khazarian mafia, you want to call them whatever you want to call them, you go ahead and you call them that. But we're probably talking about the same people. Now, they are being fought tooth and nail. They are being fought by individuals, and they are being fought by this sovereign alliance. I believe personally, and if you ever want to know, hit me up on Messenger. If you ever want to know why I believe what I believe, it is this. It is that Putin, Xi, Trump, Bukele, Milei, Kim Jong-un, there are back channels whereby they communicate. We all have the same enemy. It wants to divide us in the worst ways. No, I'm sorry. It wants to divide us for the best reasons for us, meaning being together, we are stronger. And it wants to unite us for the worst things, which is a one world government. And at the end of that one world government comes the Antichrist. Okay? The spirit of Antichrist is in these people, these globalists. Let me put it that way. It's a spiritual, at root, it is a spiritual battle we are fighting. And we have to start right here in the heart. We have to start right here in your own family. Then we project onwards. Not so much project, but move forward. Okay? We don't project God's power. He does. He illuminates us. He gives us the thoughts, as you were saying earlier, about the founding fathers. How did they get the ideas? Education? Yes, definitely. They were brilliant. But God had a plan for America. He still has a plan for America. We will not abandon God's plan for America. At least not while, people like I am alive. People like me. Barry back in the house. Good to know you're out there, Barry. We're talking about a bunch of stuff. Chris Jr. sits beside me today. He hopped in the truck and he was wondering, hey, what is it that you do over there in the studio? And well, he showed up and he's asking me some questions. And this one happened to revolve around the enemies of the United States. And he used a term that many of us use. He used the term of other countries, right? Well, as we were speaking in the truck, I will say this. We are not fighting against Canadians. We're not fighting against Iranians. We're not fighting against Ukrainians. We're not fighting against Russians. We're not fighting against those people. They are people like you and me. We fight against the people that own Iran. Donald Trump is narratively fighting a war, waging a war against the people that own Canada. Because there's the same people, they are the same people that overthrew our country in 2020. The same people that own Diaper Joe and the Auto Pen are the same people that own Ford in that big fat tub of, I don't want to go too far on that, but anyway, his name's Ford and he's in Canada and he's very large. He's corpulent. Anyway, what I would like to say about that is the nations of this world know that we are too strong now. They will not challenge us right now up front. China knows they cannot invade us, but they know they can infiltrate us, which they have. But it is the communist China. I would like to make sure that people know that Xi Jinping, maybe he's not a good guy, I don't know. But I will tell you this, his dad was locked up by communists. Oh yeah, he's got a chip on his shoulder against the CCP, but he's got to fight them. Just like the communists in the United States hate Donald Trump. And he's got a chip on his shoulder for what they have done to him and our country. Okay? So this alliance, I believe, manifests. Our greatest ally. Wow. I don't know. Are you talking about in... Eva! Hola, Eva! Saludos a ti y a la familia. If you're talking about the greatest ally by coining the phrase, I don't believe they are anything close to that. But if you want to talk about who our greatest ally is, in my opinion, right now, and throughout history, Russia. Russia. Who helped us in the Revolutionary War? Russia. Who saved the USS Liberty when he was being strafed by Israeli soldiers in airplanes, Israeli airmen? Napalm was dropped on the USS Liberty, ladies and gentlemen. Our own politicians swiped it under the rug. They wiped it under the rug. They kicked it under the rug, saying it was an accident. Who came to help the USS Liberty? A Russian ship. Ladies and gentlemen, there are back channels. Just like when Kennedy was working with Khrushchev. Okay? The same enemy against Kennedy is the same enemy that killed him and the same enemy that is trying to kill Donald Trump. And you and your family. They just want to do it longer with us because, we pay medical bills. They don't cure anything. They treat it. And they manage illness. Anyway, I digress. So, where I'm going with this, we don't fight nations, Chris. We have no war against Mexico. We have no war against Canada. We have no war against the people of nations. We fight the invisible enemy. Okay. And I know that sometimes, gracias, Eva. Bendiciones a ustedes también. Y tú también, Ale. Bendiciones a la casa, a la familia. We have an opportunistic time right now because more and more people are waking up. And that is one of the purposes of this show. First of all, it is to share with people that God is on our side. God loves America in the conception that he has for America. Perhaps not what it's become, but what it can be with his help. So that answers, I hope, that question. What were some other things you wanted to ask her that we had said that we were going to talk about?
Well, real quick, I'd like to touch up on that, great point that you had made. It's not the people of these countries that we fight against. It's the greed of the people who are above them. That's what we fight against. And I'm glad you brought that up because these people are regular people like us, whether they have families or they don't. These people have aspirations, dreams, things that they like, hobbies. And, you could go on YouTube and you could literally search up somebody who travels around a lot, and you could, search up where they go when they're in China or Japan. And if they speak to locals, you get insight on what they do in their day-to-day. They work like us. They hang out with their friends socially like us. They eat dinner with their families like us. Languages is our only barrier, honestly, between the difference of people of different nations. Blood as well, I guess, genetically or whatever. But when it comes to the point of aspirations, morals, and for the average person, we're a lot alike. We just want the better good for our family, our friends, the community, and whatnot. And personally, if I ever got drafted, I wouldn't want to go against somebody who has a family back home. I wouldn't want to have to take the life of a man who has children. That's just not something I think I would feel good about. I mean, yes, I'd fight for my country, of course, but so would they. And at the end of the day, it's just like we are both fighting for an idea that it's a blessing to have that idea, but it's such a shame that the people above us are forcing us into that. Well, maybe not forced, unless if we get to that point, but yeah, they're people like us. My dad's right, and I just realized that.
Yeah, and to the end, Barry made a comment, but we have been lying to Russia forever. It's hard to believe the U.S. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely hard, right? So let me give you a little bit of insight of my opinion on this, and I'm sure some or most of you have heard this already. The head of our CIA, which is, you say that. I mean, just saying that is inflammatory, right? Because everybody is thinking lies, 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 right? That's what they do. That's what they specialize in, right? And I am generally speaking, there are agents of that agency that are true patriots. I know this. I don't know them personally, but I know that this has to be true. However, that agency has a reputation that its cesspools would not want, septic tanks would not want the reputation that particular agency has. Now, that being said, the head of that agency is, I believe, even currently in Russia. So Radcliffe is now in Russia. And this is a very intriguing series of events. Why? Well, first of all, the head of the CIA travels to Russia. Why would that be? We can only guess. Ladies and gents. We can only guess. Probably, not definitely, but probably something is being transferred, information I'm talking about, that can only be transferred in person. It has to be a very secure connection, and that connection might just be only secured in one room. Not sure. I'm not read in, if you will. Now, another thing that we have to consider is I have read or heard, I think it was a podcast, that he actually traveled in a cargo plane, a C-17 Air Force cargo plane. I don't know the veracity of that statement, but if he did, is he dropping something off? Is he picking something up? Is that just the most convenient flight? Does he have a guard around him?
Maybe his wife is very big.
Or perhaps he's got a large wife. We never know. We don't know. This is the whole point of it. Thank you, Chris, for helping me with these potentialities. Very, very astute there. So many things could be happening there, but it all goes to what we're saying, okay? And Barry, hopefully this will go forward, and this will be one of the steps that we've already made, because Donald Trump has made many steps in this direction, that we will deal honestly with our allies. Let us hope that Ratcliffe is going over there and he's going to say, hey, listen, we're cleaning house at this agency. These 3-letter agencies hopefully are going to be reformed. Maybe some of them need to go away already. Another thing, another potential, I believe, is that the invisible enemy is seeking to do harm to Russia or the world or our country or all three, everything, via a false flag attack. Okay? False flag attack. Real quick, for those who don't know what they are. Pepe, good to see you, brother. So, a false flag attack. What is a false flag attack? A false flag attack is when something occurs, either it is real or fake. Can be both, right? Then a certain person or entity, group of people perhaps, or a country is blamed. Examples, 9/11. The boogeyman became, within hours, Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden did not take those buildings down. Pearl Harbor. We knew about Pearl Harbor. We could have stopped Pearl Harbor. It's arguable. I will argue with you, non-violently. Pearl Harbor was a false flag, okay? I believe that many of these shootings are false flags. They either occur or they don't occur at all. They're just made up or filmed in a Hollywood basement. So, or perhaps even on scene. There was one event, initials Sierra Hotel, that if I were to use it on Facebook, I'd probably be throttled even more than we already are. But I don't believe it ever happened. And thank God, I don't believe any kids died. Anyway, I digress. But yes, this hopefully will go forward as one of the things that we're doing to shore up our true allies. We're running out of time a little bit here, Chris, but I want to give you one more opportunity to ask a question or make a statement based on the things that we've discussed today, or something that you have heard or are wondering about that's going on in real time.
It might seem, as the presence of true patriotism throughout our country, many people may think it's diminishing, that it's dim. But honestly, I think, especially with me kind of being on TikTok and such, I have kind of trained my feed to give me more of a based For You page, so I can actually like see how many people interact with these sort of posts that I like to indulge in. So I see many different types of groups. For example, one based in Texas of people, the younger generation, they call it the youth group of the Alamo, and it's basically just a bunch of people who are around my age, maybe mid to early 20s to maybe late teens, and it's just, I wouldn't say mourning the past of America, but yearning to feel the greatness and the prestigeness of what this country once was. Because for us, we have never experienced it because we weren't born in that time. And for some people, it's kind of crazy to think about it like that. Like, oh, I remember when I used to go down to the library back in '89. That to me is just a figment of my imagination. I can only imagine, but I'd like something like that for my children, and to chase it, I'd hope to see a destination. Um, and I don't think it's fair that some people can live it instead of all of us. I think everyone deserves the glory of what America used to be. And in all honesty, the American dream is dying. It's getting harder to buy a home for your family. You see families having to rent an apartment for 10 years. Who wants to live like that?
Agreed. I agree. Thank you for your thoughts. I'm very proud of you, son. Very proud of you, son. You really have a mind of your own, yet you come back based. And I'm proud to call you my son. Corinne says, the media influences the agenda. They show you what they want to in order to divide and distract us. I think there are more of us patriots than the media likes to project, so we feel alone. Exactly, Corinne. Well said. We are not alone, however. First of all, we have God. Second of all, we have each other. So we shall overcome, not through our own power all the time. We do need to act in our own power, but as long as we act in the power of God along the parameters that he's given us, we can be ensured of victory. If not now, if not today, then in the end, because there is a place called heaven. There is a paradise that we've been called to. And through Jesus Christ, we will make it there. Now, we're running out of time. About to kick off the I guess the exit ramp of the show. What I want to say is this. I thank you for watching. And when I say that I pray for you and your families, I mean it. I'm not just using those terms, using those words for any type of fodder or filler. I would like to say that not only do I thank you for watching, but I truly believe and hope that God blesses you for not just being a patriot of America, because that is great, but for being a patriot of our other dimensional home, right? Heaven itself, God's kingdom. Also, if you're in Mexico, be a patriot of Mexico. Viva Mexico. If you're a Canadian, be a patriot of Canada. But you know what? Just remember, God invented nations. God invented borders. In fact, he taught his people in the Old Testament how to divide their fields from others. God believes in personal property, private property. He gives us these things. He bestows them upon us. We should not try to break that system, but we do. Not perhaps those in this room, but humans do. All that to say, thank you for watching. Have a great week, a great day, and a great life. God bless you. God bless your families. And God bless America. Adios.
This is the Bitcoin Otter Radio Show.
Oh my God, I love you